Hi, my name is Emily McKay and I was assigned the inquiry-based learning process. The inquiry-based learning process is defined by seeking for the truth, information or knowledge, and then seeking that information by questioning. This strategy is commonly used in a classroom. It encourages students to do more than just question. It encourages them to go deeper in their investigations and not just settle for one answer. Throughout this podcast, I will be talking about the keys that make up the inquiry-based learning process. Firstly, the stages that make up the inquiry-based learning process. Secondly, the role a teacher has with planning and incorporating that into the inquiry-based learning process. And thirdly, how students have an influence on the way they want to learn and how we as teachers can incorporate that into the inquiry-based learning process. Youth Learn has 4 stages in their inquiry-based learning process. The first stage is the pose or question stage. This stage is really important because it's the beginning of this process. For this to work successfully, it is important that a teacher has a strong topic, that has a strong foundation, so students are able to investigate. This stage is the question stage. This is where students will be encouraged to question, and ask questions like, what do I know about this topic? What do I want to know about this topic? How do I know it? What do I need to know to be able to understand this topic? And what could some of the answers be in this topic? The second stage is the find resources stage. This stage will continually jump back and forth between the first and the third stage. The second stage is crucial because this is where students will be gathering their information from their questions and then they're beginning to interpret it. It's important that students have valuable references and resources for this stage. So in this stage, teachers are encouraging students to ask questions about their resources. And they'll be asking questions like, why is this resource helpful? How did I find this resource? And how do I know this resource has valid information? For an example, if the topic was on World War I, an excellent resource would be an Australian government website. Wikipedia, Google questions, or Yahoo Answers are invaluable sources because they can be easily edited by anyone online. For them to become a valuable reference, there needs to be a reference or a resource provided to be able to make it a valuable source. The third stage is the interpret information stage. This stage connects with the first stage, the second stage, and the fourth stage. The third stage evaluates the information that has been collected. The research that students will gather in the second stage then needs to be collaborated with questions from the first stage, and then this is where they'll be interpreting it and making it so that they're able to comprehend the information in their own minds. In this stage, learners will be cataloguing new information, and then they will be recreating new questions from the new information that they have received. And then this stage will then move on into the last stage. The last stage is the report finding stage. This stage is where all the information that has been collected, has been interpreted, is then presented. The questions that students will face in this stage would be like, what is the main points in this topic? Who is the evidence directed to? What else is important in this report? And how does this report connect? Teachers play an important role on planning, and students have an influence on the way they want to learn. Inquiry-based learning is founded on students taking the lead in their own learning, but it still requires considerable planning on your part, quoted by Youth Learn. To make inquiry learning successful, it is important as teachers you ask your students, what do they enjoy? How best do they learn? And do they prefer to learn visually, orally, logically, verbally, solitary, physically, or socially? As a teacher, we can then incorporate the different learning styles of the learners and be able to teach what is required. It's impossible to teach a group of students suiting to all their own individual learning styles. As a teacher, the best way to be able to teach the most effective learning style would be using the learning style that most of the class can relate to. Group work is an excellent teaching guide because teachers can put every student into different groups and they can be learning in their particular style that suits to them. So an example of this would be putting students who learn better doing things in a large group, then giving them an activity, for example, creating something using Play-Doh. They will then be able to see, learn, they're doing something, and they're learning in the best suited learning style for them. Students who learn better socially, put them into a really big group with other students who prefer to learn socially. Give them a topic and let them talk about it. And it is important with this one that every student gets to contribute into the conversation. The learning style here is really good because they're learning off each other. So the students would be learning in their social activity, but they are learning also in their own learning style. Students who prefer to listen to music whilst learning should be encouraged. However, as a teacher, it needs to be controlled. So some rules need to be enforced for this to work effectively. Some examples of this would be an appropriate music at a set volume, headphones, the device to be on the table at all times and not to be touched. This is setting control in your classroom. It's also letting students be independent, and it's setting trust in that classroom. Students who prefer to work solitary, don't put them into a group. Instead, give them an activity or a task and give them some guidelines on how to be able to complete that task. Then allow them to work independently. If they have questions, then they can ask the teacher or others. It's not encouraging sociableness, but it is allowing them to learn in their own learning style. The biggest struggle teachers will face is structuring, planning, and making goals that suit every individual in the classroom. Every student is different and they all have a unique way of learning. As men and women, we are created uniquely. We are created in God's image. He's given us gifts that are different to others, and He's blessed us to use those gifts. We're given these gifts because we're to be transformers, not conformers or what the world wants us to be, but to transform the world around us. 2 Timothy 3:7 says, always learning and never able to arrive at a knowledge of the truth. That's what inquiry learning is. It's not just settling for one answer. It's going deeper and wanting to know more. For inquiry-based learning process to successfully work, it requires a lot of pre-planning on the teacher's part. If there's limited planning, then this process won't work. Brainstorming is also essential. This encourages class discussions within their students. As teachers, your role is to guide them towards achieving learning objectives and mastery skills that they need. The inquiry process is not designed for students to just find one answer. It requires them to go and seek appropriate resolutions to questions and issues. It also encourages educators to imply emphasis of developing a student's inquiry skills. This skill is not only designed in the classroom environment, it is also designed for individuals to question and continue to find answers and knowledge throughout the rest of their lives. It's important that as teachers we encourage this process as a life lesson. Proverbs 22:6 says, train up a child in the way he or she should go. Even when he or she is old, he or she will not depart from it. What I take out of this verse is that as teachers we have an influence on these young people, and some of the things we say will have an effect on their lives. Whether they take our words and use it right or wrong is up to them. The inquiry-based learning process is an excellent strategy that teachers will use in their classrooms. It encourages students to do more than just question and find one answer. It encourages them to investigate, to research and to make their own mind up. It also is a life lesson for students. In life, don't settle for one answer. Dig deeper. This strategy I personally enjoy. It also encourages teachers to get to know their students, find out what they really enjoy, and incorporate that into your teaching.